Hello, everybody. It's another day and more news is happening. It seems that news happens every day, and we're here. We're going to just talk about some context and some commentary about the background of some of these stories, if I know it, and some of the ways that the media might report it, what it all means beyond these kind of generalized headlines. So here we are today again. We've got the Israel-Gaza conflict that's front and center yet again. We have, here's an interesting thing, feds to warn crypto firms against financing terror groups. I think as we see more and more here, we have this situation where governments are trying to crack down on cryptocurrency, and as it is obviously a way of moving money around that's out of their control. Certainly, there are fears here that it could fund illegal activities or be the benefit of illegal activities, but it's also not easily taxable unless they can get everybody to declare it. So I'm not at all surprised that it's being linked to financing terror. And there, if you probably glimpse that for a second, there's something that's not on today's Drudge Report that just happened, and this is, here we go. The United States is bombing Syria in retaliation for attacks on U.S. troops. And we have these mentions here that there have been at least 19 attacks on U.S. bases and personnel in Iraq and Syria since October 17th, including 3 new ones Thursday. Again, this is a sort of thing that is so common it flies under the radar. Media is not interested to really report it. It's just more bombings. And of course, people are playing this up a lot because this is almost prophecies coming true about this is going to be a wider war, how many different countries and factions will get drawn into it. I'm not sure that anything about this would mean that it's going to be a wider war. U.S. bombs Iraq and Syria all the time, and they have for many years. It's not a big deal. And it's not unusual that Iran is deeply involved in Syria, subverting what they can there, because Syria was long really the only ally that Iran had up until recently. And now we see some new axes of countries that are developing between, Russia and Iran and North Korea, as Russia has kind of been pushed into isolation with its invasion of Ukraine, which almost disappeared from the news after many months, over a year of very breathless reporting. So here we have the thing from yesterday, a very typical American story. A guy shot 22 people, killed him, and interestingly enough, he didn't kill himself. He's on the run, apparently. That's not common, I don't think. NYPD warns Jews to avoid Brooklyn. Wow, this is what interesting times we're in. We have a day after Jewish college kids found it necessary to barricade themselves inside a library in the center of Greenwich Village while a mob of repugnant terrorist lovers banged on the locked doors to try to get at them. There's been a message put out that says, "Stay at home." So it's quite fascinating that Hamas did what they did in Israel recently, and yet people support them. I suppose it's one thing to support the Palestinian cause, but if you really look at history, Israel has come very close, bending over backwards to try to settle this, as they did the last time with the final days of Bill Clinton. But whoever governs the Palestinians over the years has proven to be, whether it's the Palestinian Liberation Organization with Yasser Arafat, or whether it's Hamas that took over in a coup one part of the Palestinian land in 2007, whoever is those forces that are governing it have made some poor decisions when it came time to finally have peace with Israel. And I think it's a lot more complex than that. You have many players in the region. You have Saudi aligned countries, and you have Iranian aligned countries who both have use the troubles in the Palestinian regions for their own ends. So yeah, it's a rather cursed situation in that respect for Palestinians, and I suppose we can sympathize them at least on that, even if you don't sympathize in any other way. We have a GDP growing 4.9%. It's a very unusual circumstance that we've had in the United States, a very long period of prosperity without the big recession that anyone has been looking for. In the last couple of years, inflation has risen, but I think many people might blame the huge spending where they inflate the currency by about $1 trillion every year that they've done this century, sometimes even more. That has caused perhaps an artificial bubble. I shudder to think when it finally pops. Here's a Sam Bankman Fried, the guy behind the Forex thing who had all that money, and now it's all gone. I mean, not Forex, the cryptocurrency, I believe. Gosh, that must be nice to have all that money, at least at some point in your life. Someday. More on Trump right here. Retail theft. We know that's a big deal in the United States, where they've not really policing like they used to for fear of being accused of racial bias, and they've changed laws in many areas of the country, and it's resulted in a lot of theft, which really is kind of urban decay. You have these stores that were in these area in the city for many years, and they just have to close because too much theft. The cannabis people using for anxiety is probably making it worse. I know, anytime you bring up something like this and I say, you probably shouldn't do those drugs or drink alcohol, try to keep nice and clean, people just say it's harmless. But I don't think so. You're smoking it most of the time. I don't know. I've got enough problems. I don't want to experiment with something else. What else do we have? Mass shooting. Oh, this is more about the main headline here, where we have this guy who shot people and ran away. Hearing voices, mental facility, firearms instructor who recently lost job. Made getaway on jet ski. Other odds and ends here. We have a classic irony is news headline. Head of megachurch charged with producing child porn. Maybe he's not important, really, nationally, but it's the irony of the news. It's the idea that anti-corruption politician caught taking bribes. Doesn't matter how big or little he is. It's newsworthy because irony is newsworthy. I don't even want to read this one. This is, so here's I'll read it. Man tried to hire prostitute for him and his miniature horse. With all of these stories about crazy things that are happening in the world, sometimes when they're reported, they seem like a trend, but it's not. It's just the media tends to highlight weird stories. So it might seem like, are people more perverse? Are people getting more perverse? Or are people getting more crazy, with the QAnon theories? It's sometimes hard to judge in the media whether these are real trends or they just highlight the most extreme thing. And when they highlight the most extreme thing, it gets us all riled up. to thinking things have changed and how awful that is. And maybe it's just that they've shown the light on one little weird corner that was always there anyway, and is always going to be there. Auto execs come clean. EVs not working. Slowing demand for EVs. I don't know. This does sound like the thing that China's going to come in and undercut everybody and make all those EVs go into the future. Cruise car hit pedestrians. Robo-taxis. That's how awful that they're taking away jobs from people like that. I mean, I'm an old capitalist, but still, where I grew up, I mean, I saw when they sent all the factories to China and told us it was good for America, and then you see your friend's dad, who was an old union worker in the factory. Now he's delivering newspapers, which was a kid's job. The humiliation of that. And now people back there mainly work in fast food. This is an important thing. You know, we have an election coming up in 2024, and we have two very oddly, weirdly unsuitable candidates that are both probably too old. Biden certainly is. Trump has all these legal cases, and even if you think some of them are trumped up legal cases, which is possible, Trump is certainly a person of a lot of very weird, unforced errors in his behavior. And you know, as Biden is likely not going to live out his next term, he cannot speak very well right now. You know, the vice president there is, it's uncertain if she is up to the task either. And all of this is coming in a world where we have a lot of countries around the world who seem to be taking advantage of a sort of weakness, the wars in Ukraine, the situation in the Middle East, the saber rattling that's increasing in China. So certainly there's a challenge to American hegemony around the world. You might say there should be, and many Americans should say, who cares, let somebody else pay for it. But I'm not sure do you want Russia or China or some other country being the guardians of the sea lanes. I don't know. Anyway, I would get to this. The point of this is that usually when an incumbent has a serious challenger in the primaries, so that means when Biden, this guy here, Dean Phillips, is running against him, usually it means that the road to the incumbent's nomination to run in the general election is not going to be smooth. And it often means that he's going to lose a general election. So I think this is something that it would be very fearfully looked at in the Biden campaign, because it shows from his own party there is not confidence in the Biden candidacy. It's probably a good thing. You know, people look at Trump, people look at Biden, and they say, is this the best? I mean, there's worldwide. Obviously, the media in the United States has its biases. One side will say Trump is completely fine and great and one of the greatest presidents. Other sides say Biden is great and the other side's crazy. But in the rest of the world, they don't have to have that bias. They just look at it and they see the two guys who are up for re-election and they say, really, is this what? This supposedly the biggest, greatest, richest country in the world can put forward? Other countries do recognize the status of the United States in that way, even if they don't like it and would like to see it taken down a peg. New Speaker of the House once sued government to fund Noah's Ark theme park. Of course, this is The Guardian, a more left-leaning thing, so they're going to bring this out. And this is, if this is true exactly, gosh, this is so crazy, this sort of creationism stuff that has grown up in the American culture in the past 30 years or so. I know it was always around. This is the idea that evolution didn't happen and that the Bible The Christian Bible is literal truth. I always just turn my nose up a little at that. I don't have anything against religion, but we have an innovation in a lot of the Western worlds where we try to separate religion from government, and that is a great, I think, an innovation that allows a lot of people to rally around democracy. And so I don't really like when you try to press one religious view forward. People should be able to pay their taxes and know that it's not being used for that. U.S. worries about escalation in Pacific as China steps up confrontation. This is what I mentioned earlier. There is a sense that the United States is weakened or doesn't have the attention, doesn't have the stomach for keeping the world order. Struggling migrants toward U.S. booming business. The immigration situation in the United States. The United States has always been a country of immigrants, but there has been quite a free policy to bringing immigrants in and taking care of them. I think actually when you look out into further decades, 50 years from now or so, or into the next century, the U.S.'s position where it is and its access to a lot of cheaper labor will keep it in good stead as the demographic bubble of the existing Americans gets smaller and smaller as time goes by. We will be able to have workers and work and have factories and produce in the United States if the government has the right policy into the future because of that very specific access to labor. Grandpa Google. Yeah, I did happen across this article. This is interesting. Google just talking about how they're old now. See, they've been around for 20 some years. And, there is the fear that younger people, perhaps if somebody can figure out some killer AI app, will bypass Google and Google will become a thing of the past. And I'm old enough. I remember when Google was a brand new thing, the brand new innovation. It was so exciting. Like before I used Yahoo search, which was terrible back then. I remember just getting on the internet in the mid 90s. I went, Charlie Chaplin, is there some information about movies? And like Yahoo would give you all the results. There would be thousands of them with just Charlie, and then all the results with Chaplin. And this was before they had all the, I guess what they used to call the Boolean operators, before they really fixed that up, these search engines. And Google was just was such light years ahead of all these very frustrating early search engines. That's why you had all these hub pages where people would collect links on a hub because you just couldn't find them by a search engine. Search engines weren't any good. Goldie Hawn saying something crazy. An alien touched me and it felt like the finger of God. I don't know. Gosh, she's 77. She's always good, but I think if you're a crazy Hollywood person, you probably shouldn't say weird things. This is interesting. Mysterious bylines appeared on USA Today's site. Do these writers exist? I think this is obviously fears from the public and the union that it's inevitable that all these newspapers and all these sources are going to be created by this AI gobbledygook that just cobbles together all existing stuff and gives it to you. I don't know where that's leading. The one way you could think positively about it is, I don't know, if you say like AI art, that means there's no more artists. Well, you could also say, even though AI does lower the bar if you want to do art, in the same way pencils and paper have been around, doesn't mean everybody writes their own novels. I still think and I hope that the human factor is going to be important. Yeah, maybe there'll be a similar thing with synthesized music. synthesized keyboards, thought it would mean that all other musical instruments would be obsolete. I don't think that's happened. So I think with AI, we're going to still see, does the public use it as at large, or how is that going to integrate into society? Russian prison population plummets as convicts sent to war. So there we have a Ukrainian article. Moscow executing soldiers who refuse to follow orders, according to the White House. Putin not dead, Kremlin insists in extraordinary detail. In reveal. What's that word? Denial. Putin not dead, Kremlin insists in extraordinary denial. Yeah. Again, I explained this earlier, that there is a thing in the West, particularly the United States, where we always have to posit that our enemies are frail, dying, and sickly. Ayatollah Khomeini, Osama bin Laden, anybody who we oppose, we have to always, it's always in the press that they're sickly and going to die any minute. The North Korean leaders over the years. And so I always think twice about, when we first had the invasion of Russia invading Ukraine, a lot of articles were about, oh, look at Putin, he must have gone to the doctor because he has some mark on his wrist, and all of the endless speculation about how he must be dying. JetBlue passenger says flight attendant denied alcohol because she's white. Sounds like a Karen thing, but who knows? Probably not interesting enough to examine any further. So these are today's headlines, some of the things that are happening in the world. This is my book. This is a book about modern times in Bangkok. These are young people, foreigners, coming here to Thailand to work, and Thai people seeing their world change all around them. It's a literary work, I think, that can give some sort of special tone to this country and the city of Bangkok that we haven't had before. And if you want to read it, it's on Amazon, and it's there on Kindle too if you want a cheaper version of it. So until next time, I will see you with more news headlines.